Hello there, let's talk about Hikvision DHCP not working. Let's say you have a Hikvision camera and are trying to get an IP from your router and it's not working, okay? So let's see the possible problems that you can have with that and also the possible solutions, right? So the first thing that you see here is that I have this camera connected to a switch, and also I have the switches connected to other devices. Here I have my router, and then I have my computer, and then I have other device connected here, okay? So it's important to me is my computer, my router, and my camera right now. So the first thing you have to check if that your computer can see your camera via the software or not, via the SADP software, okay? Let me just show you in a diagram what I have here so you can understand better. So basically here I have the camera. It's an IP camera connected to a PoE switch, so it powers the camera. And also have my router and here my laptop or my computer. The idea is that the camera needs to ask the router for an IP via DHCP. And then you need to check first the physical connection here to be able to get an IP. The physical connection needs to be good, right? So let me just double check this. So here I have the switch. So I can see that I have a port enabled here. So the LED is working and the cable is powering the camera via PoE, power over Ethernet, right? I'm just remove it here so you can see it. So it's off right now. Let me just put it back. So basically I'm gonna have the camera powered via PoE by this cable, you see, and also linked. So I have a link for power, LED for power, and also LED for link. So I know it's working or supposed to be working. Just to make sure, what I also do here is just check the camera if the camera is on. Usually a Hikvision camera doesn't have a LED to show that's working, but I can check here that's working, right? And I can also do this. If I cover the lens here, wait for a while, I'm gonna hear a click. I just heard a click, which means the infrared's working right now. So the camera is working. I feel that's a little bit warm. And also when I take a look here, I can cover this and see the LED on, right, on the camera. Let me just cover it again and see if I can see the LED. Here we go. The LED is on for infrared just for a while, because now I got light here and it goes back to off again because I'm not in the dark right now. But the idea is just to make sure that the camera is working physically. I can turn it on and also working here with the switch, right? Next step, let me just come here to my computer and use the SADP software. That's the software that you can download from the Hikvision website, and you just refresh here and I don't see the device here, right? So it's basically not working at first. The first thing that I have to see is the camera via the SADP software. The idea is that the software sends a broadcast to all of the ports here, and then when it finds the camera, I see it there no matter which IP the camera is using. Could be the default IP or any other IP that I don't know, okay? So I definitely have a problem here that the SADP software cannot find the camera. If you take a look here, you see that I have different ports on this switch, and also this is a Netgear Pro Safe switch, which is a smart switch. And I can make VLANs on this switch, meaning virtual LANs, right? I can have, for example, the first 4 ports here on a VLAN and the other ports on a different VLAN. That would prevent the computer to see the camera, right? If a computer is on a different port with a different VLAN from the camera. So that could be the problem. If you have a smart switch and you know how to set it up, you can check that. Let me just check mine here. It's a Netgear switch, and here I have the option for VLAN, okay? So here I have advanced VLANs and I can check that. As you can see here, I have VLAN number 1 with ports 1 through 4 and VLAN number 2 with ports to 5 to from 5 to 8. Which means I have the camera in port number 1 here. It's part of VLAN 1, and the other devices are part of the VLAN 2. So I found a problem here, right? So basically, the port number 1 can't communicate with port number 5, 6, 7, or 8. Then I have to check here if I can change ports, meaning change the camera from the port number 1 to one of these ports here. Then I can have it working, or I can just change my VLAN here via software. So I can come here and change the ports, right? So let me just do this first. Let me just change the VLAN here on the computer, because right here on the physical connection, I have those 4 PoE ports, right? I cannot have this ports powering the camera. So what I can do here is come here to the configuration of the VLAN, and here I can change, let's say, for example, VLAN number 1. I can just select to also be able to connect, to have those ports 5 to 8, okay? Let's just hit apply here. Now I have the VLAN number 1 with all of the ports connected, right? It's member of all of the ports. So it doesn't matter which port I connect here, I can have all of them communicating, right? So let me just come here right now on the SADP software and try again. Just refresh, and here we go. So now I have here the IP address of the camera. As you can see, it's a weird IP address, which means it's not getting an IP from the server yet, from the DHCP server. Okay, but now at least I can see it here, right? Now, what I have to do is just restart the camera, for example, so the camera can try to get a different an IP from the router, or the router is not usually connecting to the camera directly, right? That's why I don't have an IP here. So what I can do is, just to make sure that I have DHCP enabled, is just click here, enable DHCP. Let's just input my password here for this camera. Click here on modify, bottom modification complete. So right now, I'm trying again, and now it's working, okay? So perhaps the HCP was not enabled on the camera. Now it's enabled, and it can get an IP, as you can see here, right? Because I solved the problem with the VLANs. Now they are part of the same VLANs, and then I can have everybody communicating, and then the camera from here can communicate with the router that's connected here and get an IP from the router, and also can communicate with my computer, okay? So you need to check that. I can have different cases. Let's say, for example, my computer is connected here and my camera is here, and they are part of the same VLAN. Let's say they're in the same VLAN and the router in a different VLAN. Then I could see my camera from my computer via SADP, via the software, but the camera can't still get an IP because the router is in a different VLAN. So you need to check that, right? You need to check your VLANs. If you don't know how to deal with VLANs, what you can do is use a switch that doesn't have VLANs. You can use a regular switch, not a smart one. When you have a regular switch that's not smart, they can't create VLANs, and by default, they have all the ports connected to the same VLAN. So you can test a different switch, right? And you can also do here is test a different camera. Let's say, for example, I have here an Axis camera, you can see here, and then I can connect to the same port, for example. Let's say I still don't have it working. I know that the VLANs are not the problem anymore, and I still not working, not getting an IP. I can do this. I can use a different camera here, like an Axis camera or any camera that I have here, connect to the same port. The Axis camera can see the LED here. It's easier to see that's working. So basically, the PoE port is powering the camera. The camera is booting up. I need to wait for the camera to go green. And now I'm sure that the camera is using the same cable, same port, right? So I don't change too many variables, right? And then I check with the Axis software if I can find the camera in the network as well, and if the camera can also get an IP via DHCP. This is just different tests that I can do to check if it's working, right? So for this camera, I need to use Axis software, of course, to find the camera on the network, and I have the software here. But I'm just waiting for the camera to finish booting up, because the camera is supposed to change here the color, right? From this yellowish color here to green one. And then when it finishes changing, instead of using the SADP software here, and I can use access software. Okay, back to the camera. As you can see, it's green right now. The camera, it's up, and here we go. The software can find the camera in the network, and also I see an IP here, and so it's working. Okay, so basically now I know by connecting the camera here that the port is okay, it's connecting, and I can find from my computer it's connected, which is connected here. So I know that the port is not the problem, VLAN is not the problem, because it can find the camera on the network, right? So if you're having problem with your Hikvision camera, perhaps the camera is the problem, perhaps you need to reset the camera or whatever you need to do there, then you can have a second device to test on the same port using the same cable, just to double check that the port's not the problem, the cable is not the problem, and the VLAN is not the problem, right? Something else that you can check here is the firewall, right? If you come here to Windows, you can just type here Windows firewall, and let me just check here firewall and status. This is the one, and here you can turn on and turn off your firewall. So here, for example, you can come and turn off Windows firewall just for a while, just to test if that's not the problem. And then you hit OK here, and you go to your SADP and then try again. Let me just bring the Hikvision camera back here. So if you're testing your Hikvision camera, of course, you're gonna test that way. And just disable the firewall for some time here. Okay, it warns you that it's not enabled, so you're just testing it. And then you bring your camera here and you try again. Remember that when you connect your camera here, you need to first wait for a while. So it powers the camera, the switch powers the camera, and the camera boot up. It takes 30 to 40 seconds, so you need to wait a little bit just to make sure that it can boot up and it's working. And when you disable the firewall, if the firewall is preventing the camera to communicate with the computer, you're gonna see it working here later, okay? So here you see it first, shows up, and then gets an IP address from the DHCP server, okay? We can also check here via my router. If I log in here to my router, here my router shows the camera getting an IP, okay? So here's the IP of the camera. It was given by the router, and here I have the MAC address of my camera, so I can double check that's my Hikvision camera, okay? As you can see here, I can check the MAC address of the camera on the software, right? The SADP software here. You can see the MAC address ends with 2D. So when I come to my router to see which device I'm talking about, here see 2D, that's the Hikvision camera, and that's the IP that my router is giving to the camera, okay? So according to our diagram, just coming back here, now I know that the router is working, communicating with the camera and giving the camera an IP address that I can see via my router, right? So it works like this, and you can check those different things here and make sure that your DHCP server is giving the camera an IP address, right? So I hope this helps. Okay, you need to test all of this stuff to see which one is preventing your camera to get an IP from the router, and that's the way you solve the problem with the Hikvision camera getting a DHCP IP from your router, right? I hope you like this video. Please subscribe to this channel, leave your thumbs up and your comments, and I see you in the next one.